even today, a lot of people don't understand when you want to do something that have impact, that has a meaning, that has a purpose. Don't give up that easily, because I can assure you today, a lot of people cannot measure impact.
Halo semuanya, kembali lagi di Legacy Network. Bersama saya, Steven Marcel Endarwan sebagai CFO, dan di sebelah sana ada Jeremy sebagai CEO. Dan pada hari ini, kebetulan Leon hari ini nggak bisa datang ya. Tapi nggak apa-apa, karena kita hari ini kedatangan tamu yang spesial banget. Tentunya pada hari ini kita kedatangan Bapak Dharsono Hartono sebagai CEO dari PT Rimba Makmur Utama Indonesia. Betul?
Betul.
Oke. Bagaimana Pak kabarnya? Aman?
Baik. Kabarnya senang saya bisa hadir pada
Terima kasih banyak udah mau diundang.
Apalagi bisa diundang oleh yang Gen Z. Ini bagi saya suatu kehormatan, soalnya saya masih banyak belajar dari generasi baru nih sekarang justru.
Tapi kita juga yang generasi Z justru butuh kayak role model nih buat jadi acuan buat belajar-belajar ya kan. Gimana? Untuk saat ini kesibukannya lagi apa nih?
Ya, kesibukannya sesudah COVID sekarang sudah lumayan aktif ya, jadi banyak meeting. Kebetulan kalau saya pribadi 15 tahun yang lalu tuh bikin perusahaan. Waktu itu perusahaannya itu melihat potensi kita bisa jaga lingkungan, kita bisa mensejahterakan masyarakat, dan kita bisa cuan.
Ini PT yang sekarang ini?
Betul, PT Rimba Makmur Utama. Jadi kita melihat potensi. Kalau mamanya kita kebiasaan tahu hutan itu kan cuman kayunya. Justru ini hutannya dijaga, ada cuannya. Itu yang kadang-kadang orang bingung. Kok bisa jualan apa yang seperti itu?
Iya.
Yeah, so like, how did you transition from like finance to like jump into this sustainability stuff? Especially since 15 years ago, like.
So 15 years ago, so I was very fortunate to go to school in the U.S. Just like I'm sure that both of you eventually will go to school abroad. I think it's for Indonesian we should be fortunate to be able to do that. And when I went to university, I actually met my current business partner. So I went to Cornell in the 90s, and then I met Rezal Kusumarmaja in Cornell. But in 2007, when I came back after I worked in the U.S. for 6 years, I used to work for PricewaterhouseCoopers, JP Morgan, and I always want to come back to Indonesia because I always feel like I want to be my own boss. I guess it's always my dream. Gak apa-apa lah jadi pengusaha, punya toko pun it's okay, yang penting pengusaha, right? So I bumped into Rezal again in 2007, and then he actually have this idea. He said, Dar, ini ada bisnis nih katanya. Kita bisa jaga lingkungan, sejahterakan masyarakat, terus bisa dapat keuntungan. Jadi looking back, 15 years ago emang bisnis ini not popular because nobody understand it, right? Yang kita jual itu something called carbon credit. Jadi nowadays people talk about it. So what we're doing is we are protecting a nature or asset, because what we do transparently with community, we'll be able to get certification, and we are doing this to solve the very fundamental issue that human is facing right now, which is climate change. If you realize what happened the past 100 years, our activity as human have created this climate change, right? I mean, people are talking about it, your generation are really aware of it, and I think there has to be a way we can find solution out of this. So one of the solution is actually by protecting nature, because nature has been exploited for so long. Now I think we have to think about what can we do. Can we save this nature for our I guess for humanity in the future. Jadi that's one of the thing. But of course 15 years ago nobody talk about this kan.
Nah, itu dia. Dari yang dikatakan juga ya, di 15 tahun itu kan belum ada yang kepikiran tuh. Kenapa bisa kayak yakin buat ngejalanin ini?
Ya, jadi mungkin kalau saya kebetulan memang backgroundnya di real estate. Jadi waktu sempat di Amerika itu sempat kerja di PricewaterhouseCoopers, di JP Morgan itu di real estate valuation, real estate underwriting. Jadi waktu saya ditawarin bisnis ini, jadi saya mikirnya kayak real estate aja. Jadi mau punya tanah di Jakarta atau mau punya hutan di Kalimantan. Nah, kalau kita ngomong dari segi bisnisnya, ada yang namanya apresiasi. Kalau umpamanya tahu-tahu nilai tanah saya di Jakarta itu naik 10%, kalau umpamanya nilai tanah saya di hutan saya di Kalimantan naik 100%, kan saya maunya yang beli di 100%, kan gitu kan. Jadi waktu itu saya memandangnya seperti itu. Karena backgroundnya memang di real estate, jadi saya melihat ini sebagai satu aset. Dan ingatnya mungkin tahun 2007 itu kan boleh dibilang awal-awal pergerakan against against climate change ya at that time. Jadi kalau mau ingat itu, Al Gore was making a documentary called Inconvenient Truth. I think that's something that become an issue. Jadi looking at this at that time, jadi saya itu berpikirannya sangat simple. Kalau kita ngerti di bisnis kan ada yang namanya commodity, ya. Jadi kalau kita ngomong tuh ada commodity, ada stock, ada bond. Saya pikir climate change ini will create a new commodity. Commodity itu apa? Yakni carbon credit. It's just that right now kita kalau sekarang kita ngomong it's much easier to be understood, but at that time I was just naively thinking.
Karena belum ada
pokoknya
juga
nggak yang tahu. Nah, yang berbeda kalau kita ngomong kita punya tanah di Jakarta versus kita punya hutan di Kalimantan. Hutan itu ada orang dan binatangnya kan. Kalau tanah kan literally it's about just getting the land, you don't do anything to it, the value will appreciate karena orang bakal membeli. Jadi the challenge become how can we work to protect this nature. Soalnya I think there has been a lot of things in the past that we have a habit that we like to cut the forest, and then if you're a farmer in the villages, we like to do what we call slash and burn. So you burn the area because you want to after you're harvesting your crop, the wheat grow, it's easier to just burn rather than cleaning it properly. Jadi it's about changing mindset from people on the ground, community, and how they can preserve and restore this asset which is nature rather than abusing it.
Ada kayak challenge yang has been like very hard and kayak like this build up of this business and like this.
I think challenges, I mean in every business everything is always challenging.
Ada, ya.
Sampai semua itu challenging, but I think one thing about starting a business that nobody understand, have no track record is even more challenging, right? I think I remember when I go to the village gitu ya, I tell people that I'm selling carbon credit, they're like, itu maksudnya apa ya? Karbonnya dibawa di karung nggak? Mau dijual kemana ya? Jadi mereka tuh nggak mengerti juga, they don't understand. But I think if you look at it, carbon credit itu kan it's a environmental service that we provide by protecting nature. Jadi we protect nature, we do working with community, itu kita bisa dapat kredit. It's a paper product kan. Jadi ada kredit, certificate that where you can trade. Jadi itu orang nggak ngerti. But I think one thing that I try to convince the community, jadi this is how I use an example. Saya bilang begini, I'm trading carbon credit. It's like you might not understand, right? But 5 years ago, if I tell you that I have a business that saya jual pulsa, will you understand?
Yeah.
And then they will not get it juga kan. 5 years ago, you tell somebody, there is this idea, I'm gonna sell you something, then you can use that on your phone. Or 10 years ago kita ngomong kan, mereka pasti like, huh? What are you talking about?
Juga, yeah.
Jadi saya bilang ya mungkin seperti itu. At this time mungkin kita nggak mengerti what we are selling, but eventually when people understand this product, they will understand what the value of that product. Jadi when I try to communicate that is the hardest part. The hardest part is to convince people and to give this abstract idea of what we are selling. But I think yang lebih susah lagi sebenarnya change behavior. I mean, you go to the village, it's like from Jakarta, you tell the farmer has been so used to doing things that we think it's not environmental safe, not environmental friendly. Jadi contohnya mereka membakar lahan. Kita ajarin, don't burn your land. Saya udah menggunakan cara ini hampir 20 tahun. Who are you to tell me that? So I think yang itu yang more challenging. The challenge is actually educating and also build the trust from community. Soalnya for private sector, for company like us to go to villages in the rural area itu, it's not easy to tell them about new idea. Right? I think the younger generation will take it, but the old generation, as you get older, you're so used to doing the same thing again and again. It's so hard for you to change, I think.
Tapi akhirnya berhasil.
Takes time.
Oke. Yeah.
After years of doing convincing. Jadi one of the yang saya juga I'm grateful for is as an entrepreneur. If you one day become entrepreneur, right? It's not an easy thing. But I remember my first 6 years as an entrepreneur. I was the only employee of my company, so I'm the CEO. I'm the tukang antar surat, tukang terima surat, tukang ketik surat, you name it. So literally the enterprise is only one person. And I think it really took me 6 years to build this because at that time, we are a company did not get the license to operate. Jadi in Indonesia you need to have a concession, right? So we don't have the license, and I was the only one-man show. But I was quite grateful during that 6 years. I got a lot of help. Jadi one thing about this business itu kan is so new, and then the fact is they know that there is a purpose. The fact is they know that you're actually protecting the environment, and they see that value. Dan mereka, ini kok ada 2 anak muda at that time we're young, we're not that young anymore, 15 years. It's like punya ide. Yang some people will think this is like an NGO world, right? You're saving the environment. This is like you're probably part of the WWF or anything like that, but we are not. Jadi we want to do something that to prove concept that there is a business out of this. Jadi itu yang susah. And I'm truly grateful and benar-benar lucky that we have a great support from my wife, from the family members, as well as my business partner punya wife and family, because without family support, it's not easy when you don't make money for 6 years, right? And then as the head of the family, it's hard. I have to ask my wife, okay lah, tolong help me to get my dream. But I think one thing that I want to share is, it was quite clear the impact that we created, right? But even today, a lot of people don't understand when you want to do something that have impact, that has a meaning, that has a purpose. Don't give up that easily, because I can assure you today, a lot of people cannot measure impact. They don't know how to value impact. So when you do something that is impact for community, for the environment, our financial market today just know how to price the value of money. They don't know how to price the value of impact. So if you are in this journey, if you get into a business that you think that have purpose, that have impact, don't give up that easily, because there will be time that they will value you differently.
Butuh waktu.
Jadi something that I realized that I was quite bersyukur selama 15 tahun tuh bisa buktikan bahwa sekarang itu kita bisa melihat hutan itu bukan hanya kayunya. Right? Hutan itu bisa menjadi, kalau orang bilang tuh paru-paru dunia, atau yang benar-benar provide the balance for life. Jadi itu yang orang mulai starting to understand. Yang saya really looking forward for is, I think we are still in the very early stage of this business. As human, we always think that we are the smartest creature, right? We are, by God, give us the brain, the mind to really think. In the meantime, I think we always take things for granted as human. It's so easy to take things for granted. If you look at how a lot of people, a lot of economists, the old days, right? You name it. A lot of philosophers, they look at things, they always look at two things that really are scarce. In this case, even Karl Marx believed that 2 things that he focused: labor and capital. He never focused in nature because nature was abundant. Because there's scarcity of capital and the scarcity of labor. So that's why you focus on those 2, right? But what happened is, during this 100 years, suddenly nature becomes scarce. When you have scarcity, then you have to figure out to value it. And then people looking at nature, it's a moral issue in the past. But they're never looking at this as a value that you should bring, right? So I think for the next 5 to 10 years, I feel like kita itu masih belum mengerti value nature. Kan we look at nature, sekarang, of course I can tell you that I'm selling carbon credit itu dari lensa mengatasi perubahan iklim. But what nature does is it provide balance for human, not just from climate kan. Every biodiversity in nature itu play their role. Even us in this universe, in this planet, we have to play a role. And unfortunately, we have destroyed this asset. It becomes so scarce. Then if we don't know how to value it properly, I'm not saying that we'll be doomed. I think we are going to the bad. We're going to a very long and problem between human and nature. So I think those are the things that we have to look at. And I'm very excited. The fact is 15 years, we finally can be able to prove that there's a value of nature. And hopefully with our technology, our knowledge, we can actually make sure that we build a new way of valuing this asset. Jadi sekarang tuh kita masih kayaknya take it for granted aja because we think that this is not important, right? But of course, the climate issue come in, the climate justice come in. I think if you look at the shifting from labor and capital, suddenly the world is full of capital, right? Hopefully, this capital can be distributed to take care of what we have damaged. So you can see that kan, kelihatannya udah kelihatan. Jadi kalau kita lihat tuh udah ESG become an issue. Yang tadinya 10 tahun lalu nobody talk about ESG, sekarang become an issue. So I think hopefully at the same time when you have the project to prove bahwa memang this is real asset that can be valued differently. I hope that the next 5-10 years too I can bring this project to make sure that kita tuh understand and learn and how to value it properly.
Ya. Dari 15 tahun itu pasti ada struggle ya kan. Ada sempat ini nggak kepikiran kayak, aduh ini kira-kira bakal jadi nggak ya gitu. Karena kan pasti 15 tahun kan bukan waktu yang bentar ya.
Jadi emang kadang-kadang orang lihat mungkin ya sekarang sangat gampang melihat ya setelah ke belakang tuh, aduh kok bisa gitu ya. Jadi kalau saya sama Rezal partner saya itu kayaknya mungkin kita itu awal dari niat baik. Jadi when you have pure intention to help, right? And money is not the main things that you drive. Then you really have their own purpose.
Tujuan utamanya.
Ada tujuan utamanya. Jadi I can tell you kenapa kita bisa survive today. Satu, because of family support. Dua is because we start from a pure intention to help. Jadi kita punya tekad dan niat baik untuk membantu merubah cara pikir kan. Yang ketiga itu yang benar-benar lucu. Karena dia my partner, I also don't want to disappoint him. He also doesn't want to disappoint me.
Okay.
Jadi sangat, it's weird that I remember, let's say, 4 years down the line, konsesi belum dapat. Kalau saya sampai ngomong, Zal, kayaknya udah capek ya. I can guarantee you, he said, I agree with you, Dharsono, let's call it a quit.
Iya.
Sama juga kalau momennya 4 tahun perjalanan dia ngomong sama saya, kayaknya gue udah capek deh. And I say no. I think both of us have ego not to disappoint each other, make us strong. And I think with that reason ya kayak benar-benar let's just try it. It's like you don't give up. And people said that you have a lot of perseverance. But of course that process throughout the 15 years, we also got a lot of help. Jadi saya ingat tuh, I remember I think it was one night pernah ada dinner ya with our friends. Terus it's already 6 years lah, 5 years gitu. My friends asked me this question, Dar, how's your company? So I'm still cuan udah cuan belum gitu. belum cuan kan, boro-boro cuan jualannya belum. Saya bilang gitu kan. And of course their kids was during dinner, and then they said, Uncle Dharsono, what you're doing is the right thing. One day you will make money. Can you imagine your generation really see this through better than us. So I think which I'm very excited about this. The younger generation too, and we are so built in, especially when you're in Indonesia in the 90s, that profit is the most important thing.
Yeah.
But I think one thing about the new generation, purpose is the most important thing, which I think it's exciting in this space, right? There's so many innovation. If you look at all the startup company, startup company that make all the changes, actually they're trying to solve problem. They're not trying to make money. They're just trying to solve problem. People look at Goto, right? I remember when Nadiem Makarim came in, it's like I'm trying to solve a problem. It's like I'm trying to utilize all this Gojek, Gojek that maybe not Gojek, ojek waktu itu kan. He's not even Gojek, ojek, all the ojek that maybe we can empower them.
Yeah.
And the idea is about trying to solve that. A lot of things that we see a lot of successful company itu, they're actually trying to solve humans issue kan, make it more efficient for sure. And I think the technology is helping a lot of people to become better. But I think one thing that I'm excited about juga technology can start seeing that nature nggak boleh we should not exploit nature like what we used to. Jadi it is an exciting time.
Yeah.
So for you, like, would you suggest kayak chasing kayak like impact before like ada kayak like success in like terms of kayak uang and stuff?
I think impact is something that we don't know how to measure. I mean, we know that what we're doing has impact kan, but it's just that we don't know how to measure it. Jadi kalau mau kita ngomong tuh, if you learn about finance, you learn about all this matrix. Jadi we have something called price to earning ratio. Kita tuh ngerti what is return on investment, what is return on equity gitu ya. But we never know what is return on impact because we don't understand. Right? But this can be a new matrix in the future because everybody talk about it, right? It's like what is, hopefully this become a new matrix that people will value asset differently. Karena kita udah terbiasa, I remember my challenge gitu loh. People ask me 10 tahun yang lalu lah when I started this. People value asset based on how much cash flow that it produce. Kan gitu kan, sangat biasa. I mean, some of you might know something called discounted cash flow model. Jadi it's like, can this particular project create revenue, dipotong expenses, dapatnya earningnya seperti apa, nanti based on that earning kita dapat nilai, kan gitu kan. Kalau umpamanya dia bilang, I can underwrite, saya bisa bilang, saya mau jualan karbon, ini dengan segini, penjualannya begini, costnya begini. Terus orang yang nanya, udah ada presidennya belum? Jualan karbon? Belum ada. Jadi ini cuma ngomongan kamu aja nih, nggak ada yang beli, nggak ada yang jual, nggak ada. Terus dia bilang, how can I value you if that's the case? Jadi kita tuh terbiasa dengan cara pemikiran seperti itu, sehingga waktu saya mulai project saya ini, when I go to find investor, none of them are interested because there is no precedent. Everybody love the idea, even at that time, the market juga masih melihat. We love what you do, but a lot of people don't want to pay for the things that I do kan. Finally, memang after the whole movement with climate change ini net zero itu baru ada. Jadi now of course it's easier to do a project like us, karena suddenly you can say that udah ada contoh, udah ada yang bisa jualan, ada yang bisa untung, all these things come in play. Nah memang once you as an entrepreneur tuh sometimes you have to face that. I'm sure when Gojek started, nobody understand what they do juga. It's about making sure that you're solving the issue and you created impact. I mean, look at Gojek today, right? They employ so many people. You can say that there is an impact. It's already considered to be impact company for what they do. It create our life more efficient. It empower a lot of people. It create a lot of downstream industry too, right? So I'm sure when the founder of Gojek do it, they all have that thinking, right? And then finally, sekarang people understand how to value. I remember when Nadiem started Gojek, it was around the same time when I started RMU. We are around the same time, having the same idea, trying to solve the problem. And both of us are, in a way, succeed. And this come from Indonesia, kan? Jadi something that we should be proud of as Indonesian. We have, our project. Central Kalimantan project itu is the world largest project today, right? In terms of how much emission that we can save. Jadi, and of course Gojek also have great impact for the region. Jadi, as an Indonesian, this is what we inspire others to do, right? You have to challenge yourself. If you want to try to solve a problem, look at the problem itself, see how you can solve it, and you can start small. But I think what I also want to advise the young generation. Failure is just a delayed success. It's okay. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, we live in the world now. Everything is super fast, kan? App want fast, Wi-Fi you want fast, everything want to be fast, and suddenly you fail and you do not succeed. You don't have the perseverance anymore. So I think I really hope that lesson learned from my experience and a lot of these people are successful in their field. It's okay to fail.
Yeah.
Only when you fail you can learn. Kan?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if your life you never fail? Then you
Nggak ada
never learn kan?
pembelajaran.
Nggak pernah belajar kan?
Benar.
Jadi yang saya tekankan tuh kadang-kadang anak-anak yang sekarang ini, the younger crowd ini, because they're so used to everything so efficient, so fast, sometimes they don't see failing as something that they can learn from. Itu that's very important sih.
So kayak your advice would be like for us to kayak take it slow, take it easy. Like
I'm not
when we
asking
fail,
you to take it slow and take it easy. It's different.
Still go
thing.
fast, tapi like if
Yeah,
it's
but
fail,
you have
let it
to know
happen.
that sometimes, I think two lessons that I want to push. One is, if you know you're doing something that has purpose, that have impact, continue to do it. Don't give up easily, right?
Even if there's no one. What if you're kind of like, you really have no money?
It's not about money, right? Sometimes, I can tell you, I don't even have that much money in my bank account at one point. But I think you have to find an ecosystem that help you, right? It's not just about, you might have all the money in the world, but if you don't have the drive, you don't have the perseverance, you're not gonna get there. So you have, but of course, it's easier said than done. But what I'm saying is, when you're doing something that has impact, that have purpose, don't give up easily, right? I think that's one thing, because it gives the satisfaction to, if you succeed, is very satisfying, right? And I think secondly is when you fail, it's okay. You can try again, kan? I mean, that's how people succeed. All the successful, entrepreneur, businessman, or even scientists, they have to fail few times before they succeed. Maybe, and then it's okay. It's okay to fail. That's how you learn. So I think you have to have the perseverance, the tenacity, as well as the determination. Yeah, I mean, if you strongly believe that you're doing something have impact, and you'll try to be creative and find ways. I mean, I was quite lucky, even though I said that for 6 years I was the only employee. I managed to sell the idea and fundraise from donor and others to do the project. I managed to fundraise $5 million, which is quite meaningful for that 6 years, right? But I think the idea is because I was very clear to me that something that I do has impact, and I managed to sell it to people, not investor, but people who can fund the community, for example. Jadi, for you, if you do something, don't get fixated with just, I need the money because of this. There's a lot of funding out there for you, especially when you're doing something that meaningful. It's different when you're doing a industry that, for example, extractive industry, nobody's going to help you anymore. But you're doing something that have impact, you have to be more creative. There's a lot of funding out there, for you that you can tap. Jadi, always have open mind, and I think the most important thing for younger generation is always want to talk to people, always want to learn. Jadi one thing, even today, we are running the largest project. I still believe that I need to learn. Right? Rezal and I always think that we are not the smartest people, and we want to work with people who are smarter than us. So I think even with people with Gen Z, because sometimes if you are so used to do things on your own, you live in your own bubble, right? The only way to break that bubble is to listen to others. I mean, talking to you guys might inspire me to do something that I would never thought that I could have done. Right? I think it's I always enjoy talking to the younger generation, because your generation have a great mind, great thinking. But I think the key is, how can we shift the intention into action is more important, right? It's easy to have idea, it's easy to have intention, but you don't do it, it become action, it means nothing. So that's why I think it's important to have that perspective.
Aku mau nanya nih, Bapak kira-kira setuju nggak sama mindset orang-orang yang kayak misalnya mengerjakan sesuatu yang dia sukai, jadi mungkin juga bisa membantu dalam konsistensinya gitu kan. Misalnya ketika dia jatuh, dia kayak, ya udahlah, selama ini juga yang dia suka, jadi dia mau bangun lagi, mau coba lagi. Menurut Bapak?
Jadi kalau umpamanya bisa dapat kerjaan yang kamu suka itu, it's the most satisfying thing. You have to love what you do. Don't just do things because you have to do. right? I mean, of course it's easier said than done, right? Because people have responsibility. If you do something that you have passion about, technically you can persevere longer.
Capeknya juga bikin seneng kan?
Capek juga bikin seneng. Jadi yang kita ngomong tuh benar-benar suka. Ya udah capek-capek I enjoy it. Jadi dan time flies very fast kan. Kalau kita emang kerjaannya yang kita nggak suka ya kita lihat jam. Just like us, right? When you do something that you don't like, you look at the clock. But I think in life now, especially for a lot of our, I guess our kids, our younger generation, you have a choice, kok. You have a choice to do something that you have passion about.
So, what if you have to you're in a job you don't like and you still have to do it? What do you think do you have any advice for those people that just push through it?
I think that's why you can take risks when you are younger, right? I think that's the reality, right? And when you are not married, right? When you started your career young, you really can afford to take that risk. I'm saying that if you're already in your 40s, you have family, you have obligations. Sometimes people stuck in their job because they have no choice, right? But I think what I want you to do is, when you were given that opportunity, you're still young. Try to explore the things that you like. Like to do, right? But don't make money become your goal, because then you're stuck with that, right? Then you become stuck into something that you don't do. So to answer that question, Jeremy, is while you're young, try to explore. It's okay to have that laser focus of what you want to do. Whether it's something that is meaningful to you, but do not. I think the newer generation don't see money as something that you should get and should goal to achieve, kan. So you can be, I will never demand my son to be an entrepreneur if he's not. He doesn't have a passion. There's nothing you can do, right? But if he wants to be nowadays, who would have thought that you can be a YouTuber and you can be successful? There's a lot of things that a lot of people see that there's no value before, and you have value. And you can afford to do it when you're young. Because once you already have family, you have responsibility, right? A lot of people, I think one thing, the reason why I said that I can be entrepreneur, I decided to be entrepreneur when I was still single, right? I can guarantee you, if I'm already married and have a decent job, it's so hard to move. Cuman saya tidak menyatakan kalian jangan married ya, tidak juga. Jadi harus dipikirin, emang kadang-kadang kalau maunya kita ngomong umur 20-an itu begitu lulus kuliah itu, you have to find things that you love to do.
Karena masih bisa coba banyak hal juga.
Betul. Jadi kita bisa mencoba-coba dan kita melihat kan, kalau kadang-kadang kita nggak tahu. It's funny. Kadang-kadang kita merasa, udah coba ini, I'm not happy. Coba yang lain, ternyata yang pertama dia coba, I'm happier. Kadang-kadang kan, if you don't compare things that you do, you don't know.
Kita nggak tahu.
Ya kita nggak tahu, dan emang human is so easy to be complacent and take things for granted kan, karena terbiasa. You just have to explore, and you have to, sometimes you have to take a break, but sometimes you have to focus, But I think the most important thing is you need. Jadi I'll share you why I was quite lucky ya. The most important thing that my parents give me is education. That's very important. Jadi my dad did not graduate high school. He was an entrepreneur. My mom did not graduate high school. But he worked so hard that all of his kids graduated from US university. Right? I think that's the asset that you guys should have. I think you should not take it for granted that education is something important. Of course, people can say Mark Zuckerberg drop off. Bill Gates drop off. Everybody, all this drop off. But do you know that the percentage of people that 0.0001%
kemungkinannya itu
yang drop off itu become successful kan?
Dan berapa banyak orang yang drop off tapi nggak sukses?
Banyak.
Iya itu.
Yang lebih banyak lagi yang nggak sukses. Cuman kan kita melihatnya selalu yang ternyata jadi panutan karena kita drop off. Apalagi drop offnya di Harvard. It's easy said, and then yang pasti I can guarantee you, Bill Gates atau Mark Zuckerberg work their ass off in high school kan. Yang orang kan nggak lihat. Orang lihatnya cuma mau drop off-nya aja, jadi nggak pernah sekolah. It doesn't work that way. So you have to invest in yourself. And the way for you to invest in yourself is to get education. Soalnya it's through education that you can learn. Of course, some people are just born to be that smart that they don't need education. But I can guarantee you, if you are normal, you're the 90% plus, you have to get education lah. I think when you go for, the reason why people ask me what's the difference between going to a grade school sama a regular school. I can tell you in terms of what you learn and you study sama.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason why I can say that I went to University of Iowa for 2 years and then I went to Cornell for 2 years. The difference is people di Iowa sama Cornell berbeda, studentnya. Become kompetisinya jadi berbeda.
Yeah.
When I was in Iowa for 2 years, I score A's because I'm like begitu sampai di Cornell boro-boro C aja hard to get.
Yeah.
But you know what? It built that discipline. Right? When you in that stage where you have to be able to survive, di Cornell itu you learn to build the discipline. But more importantly juga in Cornell, because I was quite fortunate because that's when I met my business partner. So you build network kan. Jadi when if you look at why do people say that all these Harvard graduates become so successful? They have discipline. They are among the best of their peers. And this best of your peers become your network in the future kan. Bayangin kita tuh kalau sekarang lah, kalian teman-teman SMA aja bisa bikin acara seperti ini. Teman-teman kuliah itu teman-teman yang masa kita tuh bisa saling percaya kan.
Yeah.
Jadi satu hari kalau Jeremy saya yakin 5 tahun, 10 tahun lagi sudah sukses. Dia mau cari orang menjadi partnernya. I need people to help me. He will come to you. Soalnya kenapa? This is friendship dari dulu kan, apa kayak SMA ya. Jadi berbeda kalau mami kita udah di karir, next thing ada yang datang, kita juga ada, ini siapa ya, backgroundnya nggak jelas. So I think really, education itu benar-benar important, not only that to train your mind, it's also build your friendship and network. Jadi it's something that I really nourish, I really thankful for. Jadi without my parents giving me education, I will not be here today. See?
Yeah.
So, guys, taking a few steps forward, where do you see the industry going? Where do you see the market of where you're?
So, if you ask me what I think maybe the question become, where do you see yourself and what do you want to be in 5-10 years, right? I think when I started my company 15 years ago, I want to build a company that is the best on what it can do, right? And then finally, a year ago, I sit down with my business partner again, and then it's like, okay, it's time for us to change our vision and mission of the company. I think for entrepreneur, we have to really see how we're gonna move forward. Maybe I'll find it, read it for you. Because I still have not memorized it. Wow,
Tapi kalau misalnya menurut Bapak sendiri untuk saat ini kan tentunya banyak juga yang mulai startup dan lain sebagainya kan, mulai bisnisnya. Tapi yang mungkin kayak kesalahan-kesalahan atau yang belum dipunyai sama anak muda sekarang yang akhirnya menyulitkan untuk jadi sukses itu apa?
Sebenarnya sih kalau kita lihat, itu tergantung kita sendiri ya. Jadi kadang-kadang serba salah sih. Ego kita tuh bisa jadi asset, bisa jadi liability. Jadi benar-benar gimana kita kontrol your own ego kan. Jadi ada orang tuh sometimes say that, I want to do this. Egonya terlalu tinggi, and then sometimes that ego become their worst enemy. So I think the idea is you really have to play your part where you are. But most importantly, if you look at the successful entrepreneur around the world they always have great support. Jadi you cannot do this alone. Itu nggak pernah they can suddenly pasti ada somebody, whether it's your wife, your family, there's a support system to build it. Jadi your team. Jadi do not put it too hard on yourself and do not have an ego that you can do it yourself. Nah, ini yang penting nih. Jadi anak-anak kalau sekarang, I want to be, kan sangat gampang kan? So I think that's something, a lesson that you learn, that I learned. Sometimes it's okay to be honest. It's okay to be humble and say that I don't know, right? There's nothing wrong about saying I don't know.
Biar kita bisa tahu informasi.
Jadi kita tahu kan, jadi kita bisa belajar. Kalau kita masih merasa kita tahu, kalau kita selalu merasa kita tahu, kita pasti nggak mau belajar lagi.
Iya benar.
Jadi itu yang penting. I think that's important. And I
Tadi
think,
mau ngasih tunjuk apa?
So finally, after 15 years, the company, we start having a new vision and mission of the company, right? The vision of the company is we believe a world economy that is earth and people first. That's the vision of the company. And in order to achieve that vision, our mission is to empower a new generation of leaders and change maker to attain a more equitable, sustainable Indonesia in the world. So I think our job is not just about running a company anymore. So I think if you ask me for the next 5 to 10 years, I want to inspire people like you, to do this, to see that this is an opportunity for us as humans to fix what we have damaged the past 100 years. That we have to value what we have. We cannot just be an owner of the planet where we can do whatever we want. We have to be a good steward because we have responsibility to give it to our kids, our grandkids, and generation to come. Jadi kalau umpamanya kita tuh begini, saya juga bilang kalau umpamanya kita merasa kita memiliki, kita itu biasa pasti take it for granted. Kalau umpamanya kita itu dikasih tugas menjaga, kita tuh take it for seriously. Jadi kita have to treat, Earth is a place that kita tuh cuma dikasih tugas untuk menjaga. Kita bukan dikasih tugas untuk memiliki. Itu sih.
So we've discussed about like impact, education, just like motivation, I guess, and a lot to do with the market before and right now. And so I feel like, do you have any kind of like final big message that you want to put out there?
I think the key is you have to find your own, you have to know yourself, You have to know yourself, you have to know your passion. But more importantly, you have to make sure that you know your priority, right? I think the most important thing for me is family. Family is something that really we have to nourish, right? We should not take it for granted. Even though I'll do the business myself on this, I think family first. You have to make sure that you have to take care of your family. You have to be responsible for your family, and I think you have to be part of the family. So every successful man and women, it's always start from family. Jadi without a great support from your parents, without a great support from your spouse, success doesn't happen. Jadi you just have to learn sometimes. When I know, now I finally become father, I know how it feels. It's like sometimes waktu kita umur 15, 16, 17 itu kita nggak mau dengar orang tua kita. Biasa itu.
Iya.
Ya kan? Cuman lucunya after you hit 40s you like, oh my god, I should listen to my parents.
Ada benernya juga.
Jadi I think sometimes cuman buat message ke teman-teman ya. You have to, yang pasti every parents have good intention for their kids. Tidak ada parents yang have bad intention for kids. So we just have to, just like as a parent, I have to learn to see my son's perspective. I hope that kids also look at parents' perspective gitu loh. Because I remember during your age, there's so many things my dad told me, masukin, never, right? But I think now looking back, kasian juga ya kalau nggak didengar. Jadi a lesson learned for me, it's you have to have passion what you do. You have to feel lucky if you have a family support. Jadi don't take it for granted. Right? A lot of things that we do in life itu we take it for granted sehingga we don't value what the real precious moment, precious time, precious things that we have. Itu sih.
So, I mean, we've learned a lot today. I think for me, my biggest takeaway is that business is not all about business.
It's not about money. Business can be business, but it's not about money.
It's way more than that.
Baik, terima kasih banyak Bapak
Sama-sama.
atas kesempatannya. Kita udah bisa ngobrol-ngobrol nih. Semoga juga teman-teman yang di rumah, teman-teman yang menonton video ini juga semoga bisa mengambil intisari-intisarinya begitu kan.
Terima kasih.
Dan semoga juga bisa meneladani nih, bisa jadi role model Bapak ini, luar biasa. Terima kasih teman-teman yang sudah menonton video ini. Jangan lupa juga di-subscribe, di-like, di komen juga kalau misalnya masih ada pertanyaan-pertanyaan mungkin. Bisa juga ke sosial media kita, ada Instagram. Terima kasih teman-teman. Dadah.